Yo, yo, yo. Yo, yo. Mike and Rick here, and we are talking today about the three-step overview that we do when we're building any tribe brand. And I feel like everything we've talked about is kind of in the weeds, from like building hope on the front end. And we want to just get people kind of out of the weeds, because the start of this is a very 30,000 foot view, right? Like, to begin this whole process, it really is looking at the whole brand from real top down and how everything connects, right? And so we spend so much time on the messaging that goes into a brand beforehand, because the entire product experience is dictated from it. The whole community is dictated from it. And the more you can kind of like build that foundation piece, the easier everything else will be moving forward. It's like that, make that one decision that saves 1,000, right? And so this is just our three-step overview of how we build tribe brands and what we look at, so you get a better idea, as you're going through the book or the course, or just kind of getting started on this whole thing. Like, what do you need to start thinking about? So it's essentially like customer cloning. So let's start with the three-step overview to customer cloning. Number one being the invitation. I guess this is backwards. Whoops. Okay,
Can I flip the camera?
Backwards, that says invite. We're still trying to figure out this whole live stream thing, but step one is invitation. So marketing, essentially, your community can only be as strong as the customers you bring into it, and that's why we want to make sure that number one is all about similarity. That is the whole point of tribalism. We're built to find people who are similar to us, because anyone who didn't look or sound like us was a potential threat. So the subconscious wants similarity. So on the front end, the more you can look at not so much niche, because people get so caught up in what their niche or niche should be and who that should be and who they are. And there's so many layers and depth. And we're like, what if you just focus on the current identity? So everybody holds a bunch of different identities. Like, I would be a runner, an entrepreneur, a brother, whatever. So many different things. But if you can label it as one collective identity that they all hold on the front end, then when they see your sales page, then they're going to be like, this is for me, because then your products just become an extension of who they are. So, anything to add to that? In terms of when we're looking at, Liquid Death is one of our kind of favorite brands to look at, and on the e-com side. But I really like how, because we're talking, there's so much like with niche and then like avatar pieces, but it's more just looking at what is a very specific situation. And I think Liquid Death did a really good job of, they have this multi-billion-dollar brand now, but the whole thing started because it was like concerts, like the drummer, like they had to drink Monsters or booze, but like
whatever the sponsor
facade,
is.
Yeah, they had to drink the sponsored drinks, which were always either energy drinks or alcohol. And the musicians are like, this is exhausting. I can't do this every night. And so they're like, how do I have the image of, that tall can that I'm, playing the part with, while I can stay hydrated. And so it's not that they said, okay, I'm a man and I want to focus on these kind of avatars for people who want to drink water. It started from a very unique situation. And then therefore other people in the same situation were like, that is perfect. I need some of that. Right. So from an invitation perspective, then it's like, again, we're looking at that 30,000 foot view. Instead of getting all lost on like, who's my avatar and what's my niche? It's like, well, what very specific situation are you solving based on a problem in your life? So once you got people rallied around that, then they're going to come in with the right frame of mind, because they understand how everybody is similar. So now they have psychological trust and safety in your group, which increases their chances that they're going to actually engage in the content and engage in the community, which is really good for retention and tribe building. Yeah, because we want people to just be like, this spoke to me, which we have with our Lucky Hat brand. People are just like, this spoke to me, and bought immediately. And so that's what we're going for with invitation, right? Like, especially when we're looking at that tribal psychology, that how cults work, it's not like, hey, buy my thing, or it's like, hey, check out all the features on my sales page. It's, hey, we're doing this cool thing. Do you want to do it too? Do you want to be a part of this thing, right? Be the prize. Everybody wants to be interesting. So that's like another psychological framework we like to think of is, we were at Archangel Summit, and I forget her name, but howtofascinate.com
is where you'll find her and her stuff. But they did a very expensive study, and they found that people just want to be interesting. So what would they spend to be the most interesting person in the room? For women, it's around $200. For men, it's around $300 per month to be interesting. And most people don't know how to be interesting, but they use identities to, their membership to an identity is what makes them them, and therefore it makes them different from their friends. So that is how people feel interesting, and they're looking to brands to pull that off. So Liquid Death, for an example, people can drink Dasani for cheaper than Liquid Death, but Dasani is not interesting. By drinking Liquid Death, all of a sudden you seem edgy and cool and interesting. So if your brand can make them feel interesting, then they're going to spend $200 to $300 per month potentially to pull that off. So it's not so much about the product, it's about what it does for them, obviously, but specifically how to make them interesting.
And that's where clothing is also a big part of it, because it's how we represent and how we kind of show it off.
Right? Like, we don't even know it's good old days Coffee Co. is.
I found this on Pinterest, but it's different than everything on Abercrombie, like everything else people that look like me are wearing. So to me, it looks interesting.
And it's cool.
And it makes me feel more interesting.
Yeah, and I guess it was Freud's nephew, who was the father of PR. He was the one that made clothing kind of what it is today. Because before that, it was people would just buy work clothing. And that was like the whole market. And he's like, what if we don't do that? What if we have clothing for everything? The parties and the galas and the I guess that's kind of what started the fast fashion. But it's like, how has that evolved towards today is that people really want to associate who they are and show it off to the world with clothing. So we'll get more into that in the third eye of this process. But in the beginning, it is very much about what kind of cool thing are you doing that you can invite your people into?
So once you have the same type of people coming into your ecosystem, then we want to